obviously, High Rollers finished recently.
Yep.
They finished, as of recording this, I think last Sunday. The guys over there, Mark, Trot, Katie, Kim, and Tom, finished up their, I believe, 2-year-long Lightfall campaign, with the next one set in, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation because I've only ever seen it once, Aeroris, I want to say. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've only seen Mark's tweet once because I'm bad at checking Twitter.
Horrible at checking Twitter.
Yeah, I'm very bad at checking Twitter.
You miss out on all the bad memes.
I do. But they finished their campaign, and the next one starts on the 1st of July. Little to my knowledge, also because I don't check Twitter, sometime, I believe at the end of March, Mark released a class onto the DM's Guild called the Vigilante. We didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. I fell way too far behind High Rollers to ever have a chance of catching up on it quite some time ago. So I never got the chance to finish it. And unlike the folks over at the Critical Role Wiki, who within a day of an episode going up, all the details are written down, everything is done, with High Rollers that is not the case, and it is very, 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 very difficult to actually learn what the has happened without actively going onto the subreddit and asking, which I kind of don't really want to do because it makes you look like a bit of a but that's fine.
I only ever watched the first episode of High Rollers, so I've got no idea what has been going on. I've no clue. They were in a cave.
Yep.
They got ambushed.
I got to I think about halfway through. It's really good. I just fell really far behind it, and I never got the chance to catch it up. I fell very far behind in Critical Role at that kind of time as well, because I just did not have the time to watch it, which kind of sucks, because Mark is a really, really great DM.
From what I saw, he was very good.
We have all met him in person before. They had the big panel where you had to line up to meet him. That was the year where the Yogscast did not get their panel at MCM, and we just talked to him for 5 minutes.
He was a great guy.
He was like a really chill guy. I really liked him. He was. I will probably find the picture of me and Katie with Mark. I put it up on Twitter.
I took.
You did take that picture.
I made you all laugh and I made you smile to take a picture with you.
I think his quote was the awkward dad photo, because it was great. It was great. Like, it was really good.
But he's released this Vigilante class.
Yeah, and from what I have seen thus far, from having read it cover to cover, it's of all of it I've seen thus far, I like it. I like it. There's like we because I'd already read the vast majority of it, but not all of it. You hadn't seen any of it, and before we looked at this, we went through it, and I think we went through it in quite a vivid detail as well, and I think we both sort of came to the same conclusion. It's a really good class with really well put together. It's really nice, but there's as with many classes that especially DMs who release full classes for the first time, the balance is like often out of whack. Like it's
a little bit. Yeah.
It's I will say, and I will say with some degree of confidence, that the Vigilante is not unplayable. It's far from unplayable. It just needs a bit of a little bit of tweaking, some little bits and pieces here and there to sort of make itself to live up to the like rogues and fighters and monks and other martial classes.
I think it was the 11th level feature that I had the main issue with. It felt a little bit underpowered. Yeah,
the after reading some of the reviews on the DM's Guild and also putting up one of my own, to put it as simply as possible, the Vigilante has it is, as the name implies, you are a vigilante, you are a masked hero or villain or activist of some kind with some kind of agenda, be it good or bad. It's not a restrictive class, which I'm very happy with, because a lot of previous versions, like you look at like the Pathfinder Vigilante, or you look at other people's interpretations, it's like you're Batman, you're super good all the time. It's like, that's really boring and terrible, and putting those kind of restraints on a class is just a one-way ticket to me really hating it.
Yeah, I just feel like it doesn't let the player be creative enough with the backstory because it restricts them,
Whereas this version is like super open-ended. It's really great. It doesn't tell players that they have to do this or have to do that. It's really, really good, and I think Mark has done a fantastic job with that.
I like it in particular because it gives me a variant to the rogue. Because whilst it is not a rogue, you know, you don't get sneak attack and everything, which is what everyone loves about rogue. But this, I have a lot of rogues.
I have a lot of rogues.
I have a lot of rogues.
Way too many rogues.
We've
shit.
put a ban on me making rogues. Livvie's rogue ban.
Livvie's rogue ban is like, let's have a think. So we've got characters you've played: Delzira, Kiara. I think those are the only
two rogues I've played, but I've got at least 4 other rogues sitting in backup, waiting to be played. Whereas this allows me to change the class where applicable in terms of backstory.
Yeah, at least 1 or 2 of them could change to a vigilante.
Definitely.
Once it's in sort of a more sort of like stable state, I suppose is the best way of putting it. To do a loose overview without giving you all the stats, because it is like a class you know. I'm not going to be giving away, or we're not going to be giving away his product for free by telling you exactly what everything does, because it's unlike a lot of classes, it's quite cheap. It's like I forget exactly what it is, but it's to my understanding, I paid like £1.50 for this. A lot of DMs Guild, that comes up to maybe $2-ish. I want to say I may be wrong.
Sounds about right. Around the $2 mark, yeah. Something like that.
It's not. It's, you know, you're not going to be kicking yourself if you don't like it because you spent $2 on it. Like, come on. It's like, I don't know, you buy like a bar of chocolate and you decide you don't like it and you hate yourself forever because you bought it.
But that's chocolate. That's different. That's going to make me more sad if I don't like it. Moving on, anyway.
Moving on. The Vigilante is a D10 hit dice, lot of different proficiencies. It doesn't get straight up martial proficiency. It's just like a big long list of martial weapons that it gets. Kind of like the rogue, actually, now I think about it. They have an interesting method of getting skills. You get 2 skills, acrobatics, athletics, and yada, 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 like stealth, survival. The kind of things you would expect a Vigilante to get. But then you also, on top, 1 intelligence-based skill of your choice, which I think is a nice addition.
I like that, yeah.
It's
too restrictive on what
it's not super restrictive, but it's like it's just a nice little added bonus. It's not straight up like, oh, you can pick 3 skills. It's like one of them does have to be an intelligence skill, which that's cool. Its main sort of level 1 feature is a thing called Mark of Vengeance, which, to put it as loosely as possible, basically gives you a better version of the Sentinel feat. In that, when a creature attempts to move away from you whilst you have marked it with your Mark of Vengeance, which lasts a minute and you've got a few uses of it equal to your in-mod and stuff like that, you can basically move after them and then attack them. It's like an alternate but arguably better version of Sentinel.
Yeah.
It's kind of to emphasize the chase scene of, you know, any superhero. You know, you watch Batman and he's like running and chasing some dude and very clearly is much faster than him. But this dude still continues to run because he's scared shitless of Batman, as one would be. So Mark of Vengeance, super cool, and it's one of those features where a lot of the other class features kind of work around it, and I really like that. Like that's very good from a design standpoint. Signature weapons is exactly that. It's, again, putting it kind of crudely, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the class at all, because like it is a cool feature. It's basically you get to choose 2 weapons and you get the benefits of a slightly shittier version of Great Weapon Fighting for them. You can re-roll ones, basically. Like, you re-roll ones on those weapons.
Yeah.
For some weapons, that's really helpful. Like, if you've got a dagger and you roll a 1, you roll again. And it's like, well, you know, it's like a 1 in 4, or 3 in 4, sorry, of it being better. But if you've got like a crossbow or something, or like a longbow where it's like a D8, it's like, well, it's not as useful. But again, signature weapons is played into a little bit later on, so even if it's not super interesting now, it's like comes back later on with a bit of a vengeance.
With a Mark of a Vengeance.
Oh god.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
I feel like we need a pun counter because there's going to be a lot of those. So I feel like signature weapons also gives you like this like a thematic thing. Like, why do you use these weapons? Why are they your signature weapons? What importance do they have? You know, obviously some people will go sort of full edgelord in that regard and be like, these were the weapons that would kill my father. I'm going to use them to kill my enemies. But, you know, other people will just be like, you know, I trained for years with this weapon. You know, as I trained, I went to monasteries and stuff. Like, then again, I just did two analogies of Batman. So yeah, you'd be an Batman edgelord with your signature weapons.
Sounds like something I'd do if I'm honest.
Yeah, it
does sound like something.
It does sound.
Happy backstories only from now on.
Yep. Vigilante method is your subclass or your archetype or whatever you like to call it. I call it subclass. Other people prefer archetype. You know, whatever. There are 2 with this class, which, you know, even though me having added all the homebrew under the sun to all my classes is mildly disappointed, as I was hoping for 3 or 4. But I know this is a standard. Like, if you look back to the player's handbook prior to any like additions to the game or the homebrew that someone might be using, the only class with more than 3 subclasses was the wizard. That was the only one, to my understanding. I think everything else had 3 or 2. Mm-hmm. Like, the sorcerer of all things had 2 subclasses. It's meant to be like one of the most versatile classes in the game, but there's only 2. And only one of them is.
I like both of the subclasses.
I mean, like one of them is mechanically interesting. The other one is just kind of, you know, draconic sorcery is just kind of, it's thematically interesting, but mechanically it doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot. Mm. But there are 2 subclasses which we'll get to later on, which are technological might or nightmare tactics. Again, more Batman analogies, and I have to say they are prevalent throughout, and I like them. Where they stand out, they really stand out.
Who doesn't like Batman? And who wouldn't want a medieval Batman?
Medieval Batman. I think that's a comic series, to my understanding.
I'm not too sure.
If it's not a comic series, it was certainly in more than one animated series where Batman goes back in time. I think he's with Sherlock Holmes. Someone could correct me. I'm not much of a comic book nerd, especially not DC. Not really like my area of expertise.
I'm the white girl that's only ever watched the Batman trilogy. I apologize.
5th level. All of the reviews mention this in some capacity, including my own. At 5th level, you do not get extra attack. At 5th level, you get a feature called Brutal Strikes, in which once per turn, you do an extra D8 damage to one creature you hit with a weapon attack that is blinded, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, prone, restrained, stunned, or has their movement reduced by Mark of Vengeance. On paper, if you don't think about it too much, this is a really good ability. But if you sit for 10 minutes and you do the maths, or the math for our American listeners, it's significantly worse than extra attack. Whilst it does get stronger at 10th level, it's 2d8, and at 15th, it's 3d8. So it does eventually become really strong. Up to that point, you don't hit that 5th level power spike that something like a paladin or a fighter or a monk or a ranger or whatever is going to get. Mm-hmm. You don't get that. It's still a spike, but nowhere near as high as all the others. And a lot of people saw this as a very, very prevalent issue.
Yeah, however, I really like this feature.
Oh yeah, no, I really like it.
I think it gives more variation to the classes. Whereas, like, if you're playing in a party and everyone gets extra attack at 5th level, this feels different. It feels like, you know, it's more interesting than extra attack. Because while extra attack is good, this is so much more interesting. I would prefer to get this at 5th level rather than get extra attack, if I'm honest. Just to give me a sense of uniqueness, I guess, to other members of the pie that would get extra attack.
I think it's very interesting, but the implementation is sort of not so much an issue, but more like it's a cool feature, but I feel like whilst it is super cool, it does inhibit the class considerably. honed experience is not really much to talk about here. It is very similar to other features that the rogue gets, where you can re-roll low rolls for select abilities that you're proficient in. It's effectively that. At 9th level, your signature weapon gets better. The ranges of your ranged weapons increase, and you crit for more damage with your melee weapons, with your signature weapons. That's kind of cool. Like, you know, it's not anything crazy, but like it's, you know, being able to. So if you're a dagger throwing vigilante, because who doesn't want to do that? Like, again, you just talk about high rollers. You take Cam Buckland throwing knives at everything. Being able to throw those knives for, you know, like it's an extra 20-foot short range. Daggers only have a base range of a short range of 20 feet. So that's a 40-foot dagger range. That's pretty good. Like, I think a certain Buckland would quite appreciate that. And 11th level, Mark of Vengeance. This is where the extra attack comes in. But it's still with a catch. You can only attack twice against creatures that you have marked with your Mark of Vengeance. Whilst that, I kind of get that. At the same time, you don't get your second attack until 11th level. And even when you do, there's still the restraint on it. Again, it's sort of... I feel like I can see where like Mark's train of thought is here, because he doesn't want to make a super overtuned OP class. Yeah. Because I think people are a lot more stigmatizing towards blatantly overpowered D&D wiki-ish classes than they are to significantly underpowered classes. So I see where his kind of... or that's certainly the way I would think about it if this was what I was doing. And this would be why I did something like this. But again, I feel like there's just a little bit too much of an inhibition on the power of the class.
Yeah, this is also where my issue came in with the class, because it just doesn't feel powerful enough for 11th level. And I'm going to contradict myself here with what I said with the 5th level feature. I think it would work better if the two were swapped around, even though I said that it would be nice to not get extra attack at 5th level. But I feel like Brutal Strikes works better as an 11th level if it was buffed up a little bit. Whereas the improved Mark of Vengeance would work better at an earlier level like 5th. So swapping the two around could work well.
Or alternatively, if you wanted that big 5th level power spike, you could bring both of them into 5th level. Maybe reduce the damage of Brutal Strikes and have it ramp up in dice and not in number of dice. Like the die gets higher as you gain levels. And there's still the limitation on your extra attack. You only attack with Mark of Vengeance. But you still have that Brutal Strike in there as well. So I think that might be like, if, you know, say if for whatever reason Mark decides to listen to this, I think that would be a good idea. It'd certainly be something to experiment with, and I would recommend it. Focus Mind. I kind of have a little bit of an issue with this because it feels like kind of like a crappier version of a fighter's Indomitable feature, in which you can reroll a save against being charmed, frightened, paralyzed, or stunned, and you can only use it once per long rest. And whilst admittedly at 18th level you can use it a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, which makes it significantly better, I feel like you should be able to do that from the start, because already you're limiting them to 4 conditions. I think just making it so you can do it like, so say you started like half your intelligence modifier, so at like 13th level you've probably got 20 intelligence, so we'll look, or at least 18 intelligence, so you're looking at 2 uses.
Yeah.
You know? That's cool. Or you have 1 use and it's per short rest, and you get 1 more at 18th level, something like that. I don't know, just food for thought, I suppose.
Yeah.
At 17th level, not a problem here. It's when you roll initiative, you have no marks remaining, you regain a use of it. That seems reasonable to me. That seems perfectly reasonable. 20th level is where things get super awesome. Like, you can make a number of attacks. You use your action. You basically take your action. You use this feature, Fury of the Shadows. Cool name. And you gain the benefits of a dash, and you can make a number of weapon attacks to 1 plus your intelligence modifier. Bearing in mind you're 20th level, we're probably looking at 6 attacks, with each individual one of them getting your Brutal Strikes damage bonus.
And you don't receive the attacks of opportunity.
Yeah.
It's just basic. the first thing that comes to mind is Master Yi from League of Legends with his Q.
I think his Q where he teleports around and he runs around. He's untouchable and he is a storm of death. And
I love it.
Yeah, this is like, as much as I hate Master Yi, because that guy.
Can't play him, can't play against him, but he's kind of cool.
Fury of the Shadows, love this. This is super great. Even for 20th level, it's probably super overpowered, but honestly, don't care. This is awesome. Archetype-wise, there are two, as said before. Nightmare Tactics, you get a feature where when you use your Brutal Strikes, you can force a creature to, within 15 feet, to make a save or become frightened and take psychic damage. That's super awesome. Like, that's really, really cool. And you have several uses of it, too. Like, I really, really, really like this feature. I think this is, like, a selling point for Nightmare Tactics. Like,
yeah, I do like this one.
Yeah, it's really, really great. 6th level, again, I really like it, but I think it can be very easily abused. It is effectively the command spell. You command someone to do something without the inhibition of the command spell. And a command spell can only be one word. To my knowledge, I'm pretty certain that's correct.
Or a short phrase.
I think it's just the one word. I'm
not sure. I've never taken it.
I have played characters with it before, and to my understanding, it is one word only. Whereas in this case, you can say, it does give examples such as drop your weapon, get lost, or don't move. Are examples of suitable commands. Obviously, it doesn't work if they can't understand you, they can't be frightened, yada yada yada. Or order is directly harmful to it. You can't tell someone to perform seppuku.
KYS.
Kill yourself. And no, that's not how that works. And it's a short or long rest feature. So, whilst I feel it can be abused, it's cool. I like it. I'm a fan. 11th level. This is whereas my previous issues with the class as a whole were just kind of general balance issues. Yeah. Like, this is kind of underpowered, or this is kind of OP. This is kind of a mixture of a personal and a thematic problem. I was talking to you about this earlier, and that you get proficiency in a poisonous kit. That makes sense. Yeah, you get 3 special poisons that only you can make, and you can apply them to your weapons, and they do various things. One of them makes people move slower. One of them blinds people. One just does more poison damage, right? Mm. Sounds okay on paper. Problem is my problem is with the word. It specifically says following unique poisons that you have developed yourself. That is where my problem comes into play. In that a resource such as poison, which is in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's a whole section on it. It's towards the back end of the book. It's near madness and some other loose rules around there, and it talks about all these poisons. And making ones that are strictly limited to one class, I feel I don't really know how to describe how I feel about it, other than it just really irks me. I don't know.
I understand where you're coming from, but I kind of disagree because I do like it. But I disagree in the fact that I understand where you're coming from. I feel like it would be up to the DM, or maybe for the player to assist them in this, to come up with a reason why only this class knows this. Like, why is the information so withheld? Yeah. I think that there would need to be a reason that it's either done in the class itself or done in the setting when working the character into it.
Yeah. It's very much like this will come up various places later on. It's very much just a personal thing. Yeah. I don't think it's something that
we disagree quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that necessarily needs to be changed, but it's something that were I to include this in my big homebrew compendium for all my players to use. This will come mentioned many times. I'll probably just say I have a shit ton of homebrew, like hundreds and hundreds of pages worth of it. From some of which is of entirely my own creation, a lot of which is stuff that I found and I've really liked. This is going on there, definitely.
It will make a fine addition to your collection.
It will. That is an old meme, but it checks out because it fits. r/prequel memes may appreciate if any of those prequel memers are watching this.
This would be that feature would be something that you might tweak.
Yeah, I think maybe just like you can make poisons easier, or or your weapon attacks just straight up just do poison damage. Like I don't know. That's just
I like it. I would.
That's just a personal thing.
I would just change it thematically to fit around a setting.
The 14th level feature, I think, before we talk about it, Merchant of Menace. That is a fucking awesome name.
It's pretty cool.
That's a pretty great name. It kind of doesn't make any sense. I can kind of see.
I don't care though. I like it.
Yeah, neither do I. Like it. Like, do you sell Menace? I don't know. Who cares? It's a great name.
Just down an alleyway with a trench coat, and you're just like, "Would you like some Menace?" Hey kids, want to buy some Menace?
Oh, that's great.
I do love the name. I love it so much.
I love it. It's great. So basically, it makes your terrifying blows creature affect multiple creatures, and when that creature is frightened, they take damage over time, psychic damage. I love that. I love that so much. It's super cool. Just as like a general feature, love it. Super great. That's all I have to say about it. It might be kind of busted. I don't care. Like Fury of Shadows, if it is slightly overpowered, don't care. It's super awesome. Like, personal good job, Mark, with this one, because holy fuck, this is great. I really like this.
It's very good.
The class as a whole is really, really good, but like this
I would play one of these, which is rare for classes that have been homebrewed. I'm quite picky with the classes that I like, as you know, with my constant, we don't need this class, it's not good. But I'm very picky, but I do like this one, I really do. I would play one of these. I'll say this one because you tripped over it last time. Technological might. I can say the word technological.
You know, it, we're gonna keep that in, and we're also gonna keep this in. I've been telling you we're gonna keep it in, so it's kind of meta. You know, meta stuff is fun.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Technological might, from a thematic standpoint, I kind of feel like other classes should kind of be able to do this kind of thing, and I feel like there should probably be a class that can do this. That isn't the Artificer, because
you don't like the Artificer.
You can't say Artificer.
I can't. Shut up! I can say it. Oh no, it's fine. I can say technological.
You peeked the out of that. Holy. You
sorry.
Peeked the hell out of those sound waves. Jesus.
I'm sorry. I'm loud.
I'll quiet that one down.
I can say Articifer. It's Artificer. Artificer.
Yeah, not Articifer.
At least I can say technological. I'm going to use the word technological in my actual vocabulary. I'm not going to use Articifer.
You didn't.
I can't think. Anyway, technological might.
Technological might. You make gadgets, and you again more Batman analogies. It's great.
I really like this subclass.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
I'm thinking about using this for one of my backup characters that I've got sitting on the back burner for the last year.
There's not a lot to talk about with this class. It's just really the inventions, of which there are there's 5 simple inventions, simple air quotes, and then there are 4, also 5 complex inventions or devices. Sorry. As of the simple ones, there is a flashbang. It's called a bright light explosive, but let's be real.
It's a flashbang.
It's a flashbang, and you know it's an AOE blind. Like a snare launcher. It's a bolt that splits and then spins around people, so you can hoff people with it.
I prefer, because it's called a snare launcher, I kind of prefer to imagine somebody just throwing a bear trap at someone.
Okay. See, there's more League of Legends analogies here. It's Kled. He just threw a bear trap on a rope, and he
I was thinking Caitlyn.
No, she doesn't throw them. She just puts them on the ground.
Yeah, fine. Shut up. It's fine. But yeah, I like this. Well,
it's fun. It's fun. Flame projector. I don't see how that's a simple device, because let's be real, this is old-timey times. Inventing a flamethrower in old-timey times. That's pretty complex, okay?
Ye olde can of deodorant and lighter.
Yup. But you know, it's still kind of funny. There is a formatting error there. Just frenzy elixir. There's a new line implemented where there really shouldn't be, but oh well, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter. I can still read it. It's fine.
Oh yeah, no, you can still read it. I just figured I'd say, frenzy elixir. I don't know why. I don't know. It increases your speed and it heals you. Mm-hmm. So that's fun.
I do like that one.
Yeah. Scatter powder. Basically, you cast fairy fire on people. basically what it does.
But you don't cast it because you're not a spellcaster.
Well, yeah, but it's...
throw fairy fire at people.
Effectively, yes. And again, like, a lot of these are fairly well balanced, like, across the board. Complex inventions include a grapple launcher, more Batman, so that's fun. A lightning crystal. Whilst the stunned condition, I have a personal distaste for it.
Because
Thanks.
we've messed up so many of your boss fights by stunning people.
Yeah, just, oh, hello, I am a monk. Whoop-oo. And then, your boss is dead in 2 rounds. Ha-ha.
That's good for us, because I'm the player. That's fine by me. I'm just fucking you over.
Yep. But it is once per short rest. And it's not like a monk where you can just go, I'll just spend a key point again because it failed. Because fuck you.
And also, they are only stunned until the end of their next turn, which I think is fine.
Yeah, that's
like,
not... That's...
They only have
no, it's the end
round.
of your... Oh, no,
their
next
I
time.
can read. I was right.
Okay.
You're judging my reading. But, so, I like that one. Don't make fun of me for the Articifer.
You did it again.
Right, we're moving on.
Moving on.
Alright, so, because they're only stunned until the end of their... you've mucked me up now. They're only stunned until the end of their next turn.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought it said your next turn, so I actually, like, I don't have a problem with this.
It's good. But, like, it works specifically well in larger fights where there are multiple enemies. Because in this case, like, I understand that your issue is that once somebody's stunned, everybody wails on them.
Mm-hmm.
But in larger fights, this is kind of split up because there's not much of an opportunity for people to notice that they are stunned and for them to then wail on them. Because they're going to be preoccupied with other enemies.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can have the players split up attacking other creatures, and it's only 1 round, you know, it's not too bad, especially for larger creatures, like larger boss fights.
Yeah. Arcane Disruptor, whilst it is incredibly situational, I love it. It is an AoE, like a 10-foot AoE, you put a thing, and it messes with people's concentration. And people have to make checks to concentrate on the spell if they're in the area, and that's super cool.
What are those things called that people put outside of shops? Is it mosquito alarms? Where people put... we've talked to you about this before and you didn't know what one was, but me and Katie have mentioned it before. There are mosquito alarms that people put outside shops that emit a very high-pitched noise that only teenagers can hear because it's on a high frequency, and it deters teenagers from hanging around the areas. I think they're called mosquito alarms. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about those. I don't remember you calling them mosquito alarms.
I think that's what they're called. I can't remember.
I had never heard of those.
Yeah, but that sounds a lot like that. But I do really like it.
Elemental proofing is basically you get resistance to an elemental damage type for a number of rounds equal to your intelligence modifier. That's kind of cool. I like that. It's not broken in any way. Like it's short or long rest reuse. It's cool. It's cool. Gust engines is where I have many questions as to how somebody is constructing basically a leaf blower in medieval times, but at the same time, it's cool. You use your reaction against when someone attacks you, or when you're forced to make a dex save, and you add your int mod to receive your save. It's cool. It's cool. I like it.
As I said before, because you mentioned the leaf blower thing. All I can picture is this vigilante that just wears roller skates and then has these leaf blowers attached to their arms. They just spin when anyone tries to attack them so they can't hit them. I do quite like that, but...
That is incredibly stupid, but
I would like to know how and what this machine is. I do really like it. It's a very cool feature.
See, I'm picturing Airman from Mega Man. He's just this big fan for a stomach.
I don't think I've ever seen that. Those are just people. Oh.
That's Airman.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
I've just shown Livvie a picture of Airman, and...
I thought it was his mouth. I thought it was his mouth.
It does look like a mouth. See, he throws food in there and it gets chopped up by the propellers so he can eat. That's how that works, right?
Well.
Robots eat. But that is, in essence, the Vigilante class. I really, really like it. I think it needs work before anybody goes, before, say, like Kim or Trot or Tom or KE play it in the next High Rollers game. I would, I would think that Mark should probably do a bit of buffing here and there,
Yeah.
and a bit of sort of tweaking. But as with all classes, especially since, to my understanding, this is Mark's first crack at this, this is a very, very, very good first go at something like this. Because usually, when someone first makes a homebrew class, especially, it's terrible. It's unplayable. Whereas, in this scenario, this is totally playable. This is super great. I think it just needs work. You know, it just needs a bit of buffing. A cat has just jumped onto the table.
I got him. Hello. But because I'm, like I've said before, I'm a very, very picky person when it comes to new classes. I don't like a lot of the new classes that you have added, which we've had issues, we've had arguments, debates about.
Arguments,
we've had debates about them before, but I would play one of these. I really like it, and I'm definitely considering changing a lot of my rogues that I have. Not a lot of them, maybe like one or two.
Yeah.
Because I still love rogues. But I'm definitely going to change a couple to the Vigilante because I love it.
Vigilante, super great. I will, in the show notes, there will be a link to the class. If you wish to purchase it, feel free.
I would very much encourage it.
Yeah, we are not good. Advertising by any stretch, but you get the charisma check seal of approval. It probably means absolutely shit all to you, but
2 random British kids approve of this message.
We approve. But yeah, like if Mark, you're seeing this is great. Super great job on this. You know, I look forward to seeing what else you do with it, especially adding more subclasses. Like, I'd like to see unarmed fighting Vigilante. I want to see spellcasting Vigilante. I want to see someone be able to create like Martian Manhunter or like, I don't know, Doctor Strange or something with this.
I'm thinking more of maybe sort of like one that does more mind tricks, like not so much frightening, but something similar to I have forgotten the villain that I'm thinking of. Nope, it's gone. I can't remember the name of the villain.
Is it Kilgrave, Jessica Jones?
No freaking clue. But mind powers. I'm thinking something that would allow you to sort of like maybe trick your enemies, like kind of charm them in a sense, like lure them into a false sense of security before you stab them.
Illusions, stuff like that. I
would like that.
Unarmed fighting. I want to be able to like play Iron Fist, for example. I want to be able to be like Zatanna or Martian Manhunter or like somebody who either has magic or kind of but not really magic in terms of Martian Manhunter. Like, somebody who can do stuff like that. And what you said sounds pretty cool as well. Like, I'd like to see something like that. So yeah, I think add some more subclasses, put those out however you choose. I think that'd be super cool. And a few balance things here and there I feel are kind of necessary, but not like...
Not overly necessary.
Yeah, like it's not completely unplayable.
Desirable, but not
desirable, necessary. Yeah. So, super great. I'm making this up on the spot. I wasn't saying we were going to do this, but I would say Vigilante 7.5 out of 10. It's...
Okay.
Needs a bit of work.
I would give it an 8. Give it an 8.
Yeah. I'm the harsh Russian judge here. It's...
What is his name? I've forgotten the name of the guy that I realised I hate recently.
Paul Hollywood.
Paul Hollywood. You are the Paul Hollywood of...
I'm not that bad. Jesus Christ, no. Needs a bit of buffing. Maybe 1 or 2 more subclasses in there just to mix things up, add a bit more, sort of, a few more interesting features. But otherwise, what is here is super, super good, and I really, really like it. So, on average, that's a 7.75 out of 10. That's pretty good. If we're not going by IGN numbers, in which 7 is average, because f*** those guys. Like, if you're not doing that, 7.5 is good. Like, that's I really like this class. This is 100% going on. Like, definitely. No, I'm probably going to make a few edits here and there to it, but probably just the adding the subclasses or, like, making those thingy changes.
Minor buffs.
Yeah, there's minor buffs here and there and the tweaks. 100% this is going on. Really, really like it. Good job, Mark. Looking forward to the next campaign. So, Livvie, you have had an interesting couple of weeks.
I don't like these weeks. I love them, but I hate them at the same time. I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
I am happy, but I'm also scared for my life.
Mm-hmm. For those at home, I run 2 games. I run 2 full-time games. One on a Thursday and one on a Sunday. They are 2 different groups. Livvie just so happens to be in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And as of the start of the next campaign, so is Katie as well. Livvie has 2 different characters, funnily enough, as one does.
For each game, funnily enough.
Yeah, she has 2 different characters for one for each game, both of which happen to be tieflings. Your obsession with tieflings is even great.
It's the best race. I'm sorry. We're not going to get into this argument again.
It's
the best race.
I'm actually running 3 games at the same time at the moment. One of them we play very fleetingly. She's playing a tiefling in all 3 of them.
It's not my fault.
She's playing...
All of my player characters are tieflings at the moment, aren't they?
Yes, you have a tiefling sorceress. You have 2 tiefling sorcerers.
One of them's male.
Yeah.
So there.
Yeah. One of them is male. I will give you that.
Yeah, and the other one is a tiefling cleric.
Yes.
But they are the best. They're the best. You know, you can't...
I will give it to you. Tieflings are arguably the best race. But regardless, ignoring the 3rd tiefling, the 2nd tiefling sorcerer, because whilst interesting things have happened to him in the past, that's not what's really been happening recently, because what's been happening recently is you seem to be either killing your characters or getting very close to killing them.
I can't help it. It's not my fault. This is your fault, okay?
Is it?
This is your fault. Yes, it is.
Is it?
So, in the first situation on Thursday when we played in that game, we started after the combat that had happened in the previous game on the Thursday before. And I had fallen unconscious in that game.
Everybody was on exceedingly low hit. I think there was the party monk was the only one with more than 30% of his hit points.
I was on 1 hit point, and I already had 2 failed death saves.
You did?
Yeah, and then 10 minutes into the game, the following Thursday, we entered another combat. And because they hate me, obviously, none of the other player characters wanted to step forward and try and diffuse the situation. My character was the only one that decided to do so. And I got stabbed. And then, for whatever reason, the party decided not to come over and heal me. So I failed my death save and died. Mm-hmm. Just for trying to diffuse the situation, to be like, hey guys, we're on your side, don't kill us. Stab, dead.
Mm-hmm. For those at home, just an interesting point is that I was using for this combat Fire Elemental Myrmidons, and I was going through Princes of the Apocalypse, and I found the stats, and I believe a day later, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes came out, and one of my friends had, used the American store so that they could buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they bought it. It might not have been the following day, I can't remember, but they bought it and they were like, did you already have a copy of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes? Because these things we just fought are in here. And I was like, okay. Because I don't know, it was just a very surreal experience of like, they thought I got this book early. No, I didn't.
Yeah. I still don't like the creatures because, they killed my character, but...
They did.
And then in the second game, which was the Sunday, not like 3 days after that first death, we were then in another combat against an Archfey,
mm-hmm.
which is always an issue. And then, I was at the start of the combat, and I get sucked into a void. No idea where the hell it came from. He just looked at me, and I got sucked into the void, and I got I think I had already lost some hit points before that. But that thing...
You took I think it was 5d10 force, 5d10 necrotic. It's a feature that the creature had. It's a custom archfey with a lot of things that made you guys rage. It was very fun.
Horrifying.
Yep.
Considering the fact that he also pussied out and stayed on top of a statue, which none of us could reach him for the entire fight until we destroyed the statue and knocked him off. But so I got sucked into the void, and I stayed in the void for I think it was 1 round, maybe 2.
It was a round.
I think it was a round, but in that round I failed a death save, and I had already failed a death save
mm-hmm.
in the previous combats, I honest to God thought that I was going to die right there, and then I was so scared. I was like, this is the
you
second character in the space of 4 days. 3 days, not even that.
Yeah.
Where my character has died.
Yep.
I was so scared.
Like, I am not a huge fan of, like, perma-killing player characters. I feel like it's never been something I'd want to do. I always give players an option, and, you know, it's like, if your character dies, your character isn't just deleted from existence. If players have healing spells, or if they know someone who does, they can get help. They can get these things. Whilst they did manage to revive your character.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Eventually, after 4 hours in game time, where I thought, yep, she's dead. We did eventually get her back to life.
Yeah. It was I don't know, it wasn't 4 hours, like another hour or something, but like
No, 4 hours like in the game.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
because they walked
you
for
guys walked
miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was only an hour in person, but
it was like it was pretty crazy. But yeah, you've had some interesting experiences. Like your characters seem to die a lot. Like if we're talking about the first game, you are the only player character who has died ever, and this is
it's happened twice now.
Yeah, this is the second time you've died. In the other game, you were the first character to die.
Yep.
And you died at like level 3. Like,
yeah,
you
did. It was
nat 1 to death save, and that was it.
Yeah. I mean, I already failed the death save throw beforehand, but then I nat 1 the second save, and
alright, rest in pepperonis.
But, you know, it's okay. I'm okay with player characters dying, but I feel like in order for me to be okay with the fact that they've died and not hate you for the rest of your life, they have to be resolved in some kind of a way. So, like, with the 2 characters with the situation I had the other week, I would have been okay if they died. I would have been sad, but we've been playing those games for such a time now, and they are resolved. Whilst they've still got things that they need to do and they want to do,
they are emotionally fulfilled.
Yes, I would be okay if they died. They've not, you know, there's not much left for them. Whereas when I first died
with either of the characters,
in the early levels, like there wasn't much done with them. They hadn't grown at all from level 1. Like there had been minor growths in personalities and everything, and skill level, obviously, because we've been leveling up. Yeah. But they weren't fulfilled. I would have been very angry with you if you'd killed them.
Yeah, I think I'll put a little spoiler tag here. Future Jack will come back, and I will say that you need to skip to time to skip this Critical Role spoiler. But when Vaxildan dies at the end of Critical Role, he's a fulfilled character. He's done everything. Exactly. He's lived his life. It's over.
Whilst it's sad, no one wants him to die. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, like it's from a thematic standpoint, it makes sense, and it's dramatically not appropriate but fitting. You know, like it feels right, even if you don't like it. But if we look at the contrast, we look at High Rollers, and I don't need a spoiler tag for this because this happened like 2 years ago when Juto dies, just due to lack of player knowledge and poor choice on Kim's part, which is not her fault. This was session 3 or 4 of the game. She gets killed by animated armor, also by nat 1ing a death save. And because they split the party, there was only one other person with her. She was dead. And like that was a scenario where it was like, this is not. I think Kim said it. She did. She said it herself. She said after Juto came back to life, so she would be perfectly fine with Juto dying towards the end of High Rollers when she's fulfilled as a character. Yeah. But at this stage, she just started playing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I feel like that's like an interesting point of just.
Something else in terms of character deaths, I've always been a big fan. Whilst this hasn't happened, there have been the opportunity for it to happen. If a character dies, it might be an interesting thought for the DM to have, to sort of like bring the player back, but without the party's knowledge, so to speak. So say there is a villain, like the character's villain. Like I've mentioned this to you about some of my character's villains itself. Yes. If there is a character, if the character's villain perhaps is after them and trying to find them, perhaps they come across their body or finds out that they're dead. Yeah. It goes to the grave and everything and revives them themselves.
That's a very interesting story point.
You could then, or perhaps just another organisation in general. So the character is dead and buried, that the other player characters have gone through the death process. You can always just say to there could be another organisation that is like, doesn't even have to be evil, that could then stumble across it or take a particular interest in it and revive the character.
Or like an otherworldly entity or something like that. It's like, there's a lot of opportunities to make player character deaths, like player resurrection, not seem like a giant cop-out and still be interesting to the story. Because like, in case of one of your characters, if the first character, if her villain had found a corpse, that would be pretty cool.
It would have been pretty cool. That's why I would have been fine with her dying, because I could have, that could have happened. Yeah. She could die. That's also fine by me, because she was fulfilled and everything. But for her to come back in that way, that would have been amazing. Yeah. That would have been terrifying. And you don't have to do it with the group, so to speak. You could just have a couple sessions outside of the game with that player going through what has happened after they've been revived by this mysterious organisation/villain who have revived them. Yeah. And before they come back to the party, and it's like, surprise, I'm not dead. Actually, now just taken over by my villain, but, that's fine too.
Yeah, no, stuff like that I think is super cool. And I think the way that some people, the way that some DMs handle death, I'm not really a fan of. I'm really not a fan of. But, if their players are totally cool with their characters dying, then power to them. But, if you've got a group of players who get really attached to their characters and you're perfectly okay with just steamrolling them and killing them, I don't know, man. I certainly wouldn't want to play that game. I can say that.
I have seen a couple points on debates and everything about this that I do agree with, where if you don't kill characters off, it kind of removes that threat. And I forget the specific term for it, someone will correct me, where the players eventually just get this security of, it's fine.
They become Keyleth, and they're like, we're gods! And then they jump off a cliff, and a cliff that the DM, a metaphorical cliff that the DM puts before them, and they leap off it and they die. Some GMs do that. They will put a cliff even before the players start telling them that they're gods. Yeah. So I don't really like that.
Yeah, but I will agree in the fact that if you don't keep that threat there, players will become comfortable with the fact that they can't die because they know they're going to be revived in one way or another. Yeah, I think, agree with that.
Yeah, I think there are ways of doing it other than just saying you're going to die. You give other threat, threat of because it's kind of like this god thing of players feel like they don't need to think before they go and do something because they're afraid they're not going to die, and it's give them another reason to be afraid. Someone else is going to die. So their favorite NPC is going to get stuck, as in with a knife, not as in stuck in
help mud.
Oh no,
I'm stuck.
I am encased in mud. Help! I've been Han Solo'd or something. I don't know.
But consequences that would affect entire civilizations.
Yeah.
We don't need to kill this dragon. That's fine. The dragon then goes and razes an entire city to the ground.
It's like the city where they started their adventure with all their favorite NPCs just dead. Yeah, everyone's gone.
You've got other NPCs that are coming up to them and going, "You knew about this dragon. Why didn't you do anything? You could have stopped this."
That is the threat.
Something like that, or perhaps with what you've done quite recently. This is a different situation, mind you, but threatening the characters' close relatives, if they have any still alive, due to backstory reasons.
Threatening their reputation as well, framing the characters for something they didn't do because of their failure or their inaction. It's all that kind of thing is I personally feel is a significantly better way to make your players be scared than just, oh no, I'm gonna die, because that's just not
Sometimes
dramatically interesting.
Yeah.
Like, not to mention the act of putting a new character into a party is the most, 99% of the time, is the most horribly awkward and shoehorny thing ever. And I know for a fact that if you, Katie especially, if you talk to Katie for any length about this, she will tell you from her own personal experience that it is terrible being the person being shoehorned in, or just watching people get shoehorned into a campaign, when characters getting shoehorned into a campaign really don't fit at all. It was really terrible. I hate it.
And I feel like if you have a character that, going back to the death thing, if you've had a character that dies, and then you as the player have to bring another character in to fulfill that role, sometimes it can feel like the party is accepting you just because they know that you're the player.
Yeah.
And it's like they would only accept this character into their group because they know that you're playing it. Like if it was an NPC, they would just be like, go away. But that is also an issue, and also the fact that the relationships within the party, within the characters within the party, that can also change. Like having trying to introduce a whole new character into a game where all the characters have bonded and everything, it all works super well. Then introducing your new character, it can all go down the drain. So we've had this issue with some people who have joined new games and everything. They aren't as involved because their characters haven't got that bond with the other player characters.
Yeah, that's very common. I think the only scenario where I've seen something like this go flawlessly is again, this is a fairly minor Critical Role spoiler, so I'm not going to give any details, but Tarion.
I never got to that part.
You never did. No, yeah, it worked very well. The player in question did a good job with it, especially since they were completely on the spot with it too. And Matt also did a very good job, but that's because he's Matt and that's kind of his thing. Then again, the player in question, they also did a good job just because it's them, and that's kind of also what they do. Okay, so the other day, the Stream of Many Eyes was on, and I've told you about this.
I've seen it advertised a while.
Lots of D&D creators, Mercer, Humes, Colville, the McElroys, at least a handful of them. I would assume all of them. Adam Coble, Ivan von Norman. Some of the bigger names got letters and flash drives. I believe from Elminster Ormar, who is kind of the face of the Forgotten Realms. Whilst my Forgotten Realms lore is lacking, to say the least, I'm not very well versed in it. I know loosely who Elminster is. I know enough to be able to recognize who he is. And they get this letter from Elminster and a flash drive with a symbol on it. And presumably this flash drive contains all the information about the upcoming event, the Stream of Many Eyes. And it was, I believe, was this weekend just gone. It might still be going on, I'm not sure. I haven't really watched a huge amount of it. But they announced 2 adventures. I'm holding up 4 fingers.
Even though there's 2. 2 on each hand.
2 on each hand. 1 adventure and a follow-up. Waterdeep Dragon Heist and Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. There are a lot of things to talk about here. I'm going to start with Dragon Heist because it's the first one and my personal favourite, and I think is the one that I would actually run. It is an urban campaign setting because a lot of people have wanted one of these.
Yeah.
And I've never run one, but I really want to.
I would like to play one.
Because they look super fun. It's set in Waterdeep, obviously. And it is about a heist of a shit ton of money.
You don't say.
Yeah. And the main selling point is if we take a look at the art for Waterdeep Dragon Heist, if you look on the cover, there are 5 individuals and a potload of gold. There is a beholder, a blue one with a little bit of like a cream, I don't want to say underbelly because it doesn't really have an underbelly because they're beholders. There is a drow with a big purple hat and a feather. There is a man and a woman dressed in gold with masks and some Thanos-looking motherfucker over here. And I will say that I knew who 2 of these people were when I first saw this cover, and before the videos on D&D Beyond with Todd Kenrick and Chris Perkins and Mike Merles and the other sort of D&D execs. added that D&D XX because Jeremy Crawford, there you go, and Kate Welch. Those were the people that I had forgotten the names of off the top of my head, and now I remember. But I knew who John Laxall, obviously. Can't forget. He's got the feather, he's got the hat, he's a cool guy.
He's been in one of our games.
He is a fun character. And the Xanathar, because there was just a book released on him. And also, he's a beholder. He's fun. And in case it wasn't obvious, there are 4 different villains in this book that the DM can choose from based on the season that they play the game in. Which I think is really cool.
I think that's cool.
I don't know the exact pattern for it, but I know that of the 4 villains, there are the Castellantas, which are noble, Waterdeep individuals of questionable
alignment.
Yeah, that'll do.
That'll do.
Yeah, Jarlaxle, the secret lord of Luskan to the far north. He is he's a very powerful drow, very suave, seductive. He's very fun. He's one of those. I think in the words of I forget whether it was Chris Perkins or Jeremy Crawford that said this, but he is the villain you like and you want to win because he's so likable.
Yeah.
He's such a cool guy. Like
Jade certainly likes him. For different reasons.
Yeah.
He's very, very suave.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it.
Mm-hmm. We might talk about that some other time. It's strange. The Xanathar, he is the crime lord of Waterdeep. Everybody knows who the Xanathar are. Well, not everybody knows who the Xanathar is.
I don't know who the Xanathar is. Look, I'm not well.
I know. I was talking about the people in Waterdeep, but even
I was going to say
not even the people in Waterdeep really know who the Xanathar is. He runs he's basically if Al Capone was an extra crazy beholder.
Yeah. Okay.
And he runs a crime syndicate in Waterdeep. I forget the name of the syndicate. I want to say it's called like the Xanathar or something, but I'm probably wrong there. But it is run by the Xanathar, and he is a crazy beholder, and that's fun. So we've got Jarlaxle, the Castellantas, the Xanathar, and this Thanos-looking dude. Because seriously, purple face, big golden glove, and a hood.
That looks like Thanos.
It looks exactly.
It's the first thing everyone noticed.
Yeah, it looks exactly like Thanos. Okay, this is Manchun, and he is. I'm basing this off of what they said on the thing because I don't know a lot about Manchun, because he's sort of an old style D&D villain, from probably was prevalent long before I was born, or if not when I was very very young. But he is a clone of the original Manchun, the creator of the Zentarim, and you have seen the Zentarim before and their current sword pseudo leader Zul Shimbril. And he is crazy. He's fun. And Manchun was the original villain. He was killed by Fazul, supposedly. When he died, his failsafe activated, but not in the way he wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
See, what is meant to happen with the spell clone is when you clone someone, you put them in stasis, because when you clone yourself, they want to kill you because, they see themselves as the real one.
Yeah.
What actually happens is when you die, you transfer your consciousness into the clone. And you become the clone, you step out, and everything's the same.
Everything's fine.
Problem is, when he died, all of his clones came out at once, and he didn't possess any of them. So there's now 8 Manchuns, incredibly powerful archmages, that all hate each other. And that started a bunch of wars.
Interesting.
A lot of them were destroyed, not all of them, obviously. And this one is in hiding in Waterdeep.
Okay.
And he, presumably, wants this money so he can keep his existence a secret.
Okay, that's interesting.
And So you got 4 different villains in this urban campaign for low-level characters, and I am hyped as fuck to run this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it looks super cool. I really, really like it. The 4 villains thing. Love it. Huge fan. Especially, like seeing Jarlaxle on a book, like after having run a campaign in which he was like a relatively prevalent NPC for.
He wasn't a villain though.
No, he wasn't. That's the thing. Is I ran him as like a chaotic neutral scoundrel who runs the.
He was still a crime lord. He was still threatening, but he wasn't the villain.
No,
We teamed up with him.
Yeah, you guys made him the bloody Lord of Menza Berenzan. Like,
I mean, who else were we going to appoint?
That is very true. You made...
There weren't many other people we could appoint, and, you know, we were hesitant, because, you know, we're like, do we really want Jarlaxle running Menzoberran's in? And then we did.
Yep.
Just because we could. I mean, one of our characters was a bit biased towards whether or not we should appoint him.
Yeah.
Jade, one of the player characters in that game, does, in fact, like Jarlaxle quite a lot. And I don't blame her. He is very good looking. He's very suave. I don't blame her. My obsession is lessened, though.
Yes. Jade's obsession with Jarlaxle is somewhat unhealthy, and she plays a drow wizard in the game. So, you know.
Natural connection. They're both drows.
Yeah.
Being mildly racist, but...
It is rather amusing, shall we say. But
I don't blame her. He's very handsome. Going back to the Dragon Heist art, I would like to point out that I believe it might be the art for the back cover. I'm not too sure.
I think it is just the Stream of Many Eyes sort of promotional image for Dragon Heist.
It's the art with just the beholder underneath the title.
Yeah, it's like the book cover is off to the right, and on the left it says the Stream of Many Eyes, and then there is the Xanathar's face uncomfortably close, and he is making a very stupid face.
I only thought it was stupid because I hadn't actually looked at the image that much, but when I looked at it, I didn't notice the teeth.
You just thought he had, like, his mouth was just a tiny little worm.
His upper lip, I thought was just his entire mouth, and I thought he was just going,
See, if I block out the teeth, I can see he's like,
See? I got very confused, and it wasn't until we actually clicked on the image and I saw the teeth that I realised, oh wait, no, he's just grinning very evilly at me. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I just thought that his top lip was his entire mouth, and it made it very not intimidating.
It was pretty great.
Unintimidating is the word, not intimidating. Yeah. I can English.
Mm-hmm. I can English, good. Now, there's another adventure. There's two, funnily enough. Mm-hmm. There is Waterdeep, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, as I mentioned before. And for those who are unaware, because I kind of knew, again, it's mostly just from Acquisitions Incorporated, and that's not the best method of getting your Forgotten Realms lore, that there is a mountain next to Waterdeep. It's called Waterdeep Mountain. And under that mountain is a place called, wait for it, Under Mountain. Yeah, I know, right? Under Mountain was the base of many people, and has been for some time the place of the Archmage Halaster. And he is the Mad Mage. And he here is wearing a cloak of many eyes. He's got a little rune. He's got strangely odd-coloured skin. And
I thought he had a nose ring. I thought that glowing thing underneath his nose...
He does look like he has a nose ring.
It's the reflection of the rune, but I thought he had a nose ring for a few seconds.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'd like to point out that this is an excellent mirror of the other one, because there is a death tyrant in the background, the opposite of Beholder, because it's a dead Beholder. And there is a drow woman at the top, but she's looking in the opposite direction to the direction Jarlaxle is looking on Dragon Heist. But they're still in the same formation with the one creepy dude in the front. There's two people facing opposite sides in the middle, and at the back there's a slightly larger drow person looking off to one side.
I hadn't noticed that, actually.
Yeah, I just noticed it just now. And there's some very good art direction right there.
It's very good, very good.
It's very, very, very nice. But Dungeon of the Mad Mage takes you from 6th to 20th level.
Jesus.
In a giant mega dungeon.
I see.
It is an entire adventure inside a single dungeon. And whilst I think that's super cool, it's not something I would ever run.
It's not something I would like to play in either.
It is a dungeon full of intrigue and mystery and plenty of story opportunities with people you don't necessarily have to fight. But even so, I feel very strongly that there is a sense of the fact that nothing really matters in Undermountain. Because if you fuck up a floor and you cause the stone giants and the fire giants to start killing each other, if you want to just nope out of that situation, you just go up or down a floor. Mm-hmm. And then that situation is gone forever.
Yeah.
Like, problem solved. Done. That's it. Like, even though I'm personally not a super big fan of of that. I see the appeal.
I do see the appeal, yes.
100% see the appeal here.
It would be very good for characters who are more into dungeon crawling, especially because as a player, I'm not much of a big fan of dungeons. I don't like dungeons that much. I will play in dungeons. I will obviously have no qualms about, doing the whole dungeon crawling thing inside a campaign. But playing an entire campaign in one dungeon, just doing dungeon crawling, I understand there were probably like minor storylines and everything in the dungeon and everything, but I don't think I would. It doesn't appeal to me.
They have said that each floor is unique, and like one floor is like a forest, and one floor is like water and stuff. Because Halaster is crazy.
Yeah.
He just shapes the place however the hell he chooses, and that's super cool. Now, even though this doesn't appeal to either of us, and I wouldn't run it, and you wouldn't play it, this is a very useful adventure for one very specific reason. Any one of those floors, because they're all so different, could probably on their own work as their own dungeon. So if you, as a DM, need a dungeon that's like a forest, as a forest floor, just take it. Yeah, just take it. Just take it out of Dungeon the Man Mage and put it in your thing. I'm a very, I think I heard it from Matt Colville first. It's like, recycling other people's stuff is, you're not a lazy dungeon master. You're just a resourceful one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think that's something that's totally something I would do. Like, I would dip into this book when I need to, and I think even though I won't run the campaign as a whole, just taking different floors off of there, and even if I just want the map, or I want the monsters, or I want the magic items, or something, there'll always be something I can take out of this book.
Yeah.
And I think, even though again, I won't ever run the adventure, just having the book for this floor, or this magic item, or these monsters, or this political dynamic on this specific floor of the dungeon, super cool.
Yeah, that's good. That's useful, actually.
Yeah, I really like that. Like, Dragon Heist, 100% gonna run it at some point.
I would love to play
really
that
want it. Mad Mage, still want it, but not because I want to run it, because I want to siphon the good bits out of it and take all the bits I like, all the bits I need, and put them in my own games. Because
I can understand that. That would work. Yeah.
Another thing that they have said that they have done is that there are sections of each floor where it is a bit of, if you, the dungeon master, want to add to this floor, add more. Like there is a reason for the players to go somewhere different on this floor. Here's an opportunity for you to do that.
Okay.
That's also really cool. That's cool. So it gives a bit of, so it's not just the dungeon master reading like, okay, what's in this next room?
Yeah, it adds more of a personal effect to it instead of it just being something that you are
just kind of reading through.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I think good. Like D&D did need more kind of low level adventures, because at the moment kind of all we've got is Lost Mines of Phandelver, and as fantastic as Lost Mines of Phandelver is, I cannot express how good it is. I've run it twice, only once, admittedly, all the way through. But even so, I've run it more than once, and it's super good adventure, especially for new players. I would run it a dozen times more. It's super good.
I would play in it again. Like, honestly, even though I've played through it, I wouldn't mind playing through that one again. Yeah. I really enjoyed that one. It's
a very interchangeable adventure as well, because everything is very general. Like it's just like you can just change this to this, and it's still the same. Like it's the dungeon is still interesting. The dungeons are still interesting. The Phandelver itself, it doesn't put you in a box with what the NPCs are and who they are. It doesn't really give you that. Which in some scenarios I kind of wish it did, and in others I'm glad it doesn't, because it allows me to make Halia Thornton the Zentarum operator and the owner of the mining place. Let me make her like the menace of the party, even though they're now like 16th level. They still hate her.
Oh yeah, of course because still hate her.
Because
I don't like her. Bitch.
She's an asshole, and she walks around filing her nails and clicking her heels, and just has has the whole town in her pocket. Even though now the parties are like the barons and shit of that place. Like they're the leaders.
Still don't like her.
Well, she still has like half the mining operations in the town in her pocket. But enough about Lost Mines of Phandelver. I could go on about how good it is for ages. I'm really glad they've got a new and wildly different, actually,
very different
starting adventure. Because before it was just sort of like Lost Mines of Phandelver, and it kind of leads into Princes of the Apocalypse a little bit. And Princes of the Apocalypse is all right. Like I've stolen like some of the stuff from Princes of the Apocalypse before. Like it's good. Prince of the Apocalypse is a good adventure, but it's one of those ones which takes you through way too many levels, and it would take forever to get through. It takes you from like 3rd to 15th, and I'm like, Jesus, that's a long ass time.
Yeah, that would take a long while to run.
Yeah,
Like,
and obviously Curse of Strahd kind of counts, but even then, you start 3rd, and it takes you to like 10th or 11th.
oh god, because we're currently playing Curse of Strahd. I get the feeling that in our group we're just gonna keep going and we're gonna keep leveling up, just to make sure that we can kill Strahd at the end. Because if we keep leveling up, maybe he'll be easier to kill. That's my thought on it, at least. So we're already on 11th level, aren't we?
Yeah, if I put that shit into the calculator and it says it's going to be anything less than deadly, guess who's getting involved?
No, I shouldn't have mentioned anything.
Well, I was gonna do that anyway. Strahd von Zarovich is meant to be very, very challenging, and he will be no matter what.
If I say please.
If you say please, I will give him 20 more hit
Oh
points.
no. But yeah, Curse of Strahd is brilliant. I love
Curse of Strahd is great. Like of the adventures that I have read through, I have not read Hoard of the Dragon Queen or the other one that is about Tiamat. From what I've read, they're not very good either, and that's, it's whatever. Lost Mines is great. I really love it. Prince of the Apocalypse is pretty good. Like, I feel like it's...
I've never read through that. I'm not too sure what goes on in that one, if I'm honest.
It's basically 4 cults of elemental evil.
Yeah.
And they try to summon the princes, the princes of the Apocalypse.
Okay.
The 4 elemental evil deities, I want to say. I don't know. There's Ogrimark, Ogrimark, Yancy Bin, and I forget what. In like, those are the 2 interesting ones, and then there's High, whatever the hell her name is, and she's just a tidal wave with eyes, and then Infer, what's his face, and he's just a fire tornado.
Infernape.
No, that's a Pokemon.
It's just a giant Infernape.
Imix, I think his name's Imix or something. I don't know. He's just a fire tornado with eyes, and that's boring. And it's like, Ogrimark is a big stone guy, and he punches stuff. And Yancy Bin is a dude with cool hair, and sometimes a beard. So he's way cooler. He's the coolest one. But I used Ogrimark for our campaign. I used Ogrimark, and
that was terrifying.
The Cult of Yolurk.
The first situation where I've actually gone angry at a combat situation.
Mm-hmm. But that wasn't Ogrimark. That was
the lead up to it.
Yeah, that was everybody loves a Dow, and now she just flies through Earth like it's not even fucking there.
I got so angry.
You did.
But anyway, these new adventures that they're doing, those are very good substitutes for low level campaigns.
Dungeon of the Man Mage isn't, but Dragon Heist.
Dragon Heist would be.
Dragon Heist, I think.
It's good to have versatility, and I've never seen a more urban setting for a specific adventure. Personally, I've never played in an urban setting. We've gone obviously in cities before, but nothing that is set
urban.
Yeah,
nothing that's urban bound, and I think that can be very, very interesting. Like, it can be.
I would like to play in that one.
Yeah, definitely something I'm going to run at some point. So, talking about a book that is actually already out, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes came out a little while ago, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about it now, and some of the interesting things that I have found, and I've literally just shown you now, so you've got a bit of context. I think it's something interesting is Mordenkainen brings out a lot of Planescape stuff, and it also brings in a lot of sort of old school D&D stuff from like Dungeon Magazine and pre-2000s and stuff, like before, a long ass fucking time ago. And one of the interesting things that I found, or more specifically, our friend Tom found and then sent me a picture of, was the Morot, which is something called an Inevitable. Now, these things are creations of the Modron.
They're terrifying to look at. Oh, I can see that they're made by... Okay, that makes sense. That's why.
They are made by Modrons. And I have a question for the individual who came up with the Modrons. I have a feeling it's probably Planescape, because let's be real, anything weird, it's probably from Planescape. Why?
I just want to know how it blinks, Because I don't see any eyelids. I just see an eyeball.
I think that's the same with, actually, no, the other Modrons do have eyelids. I don't understand the Modrons. I feel like they're just way too...
I love them.
They're, like, I love them because they're so stupid, but I would never involve them in any campaign.
Oh, I would.
Because they're just so ridiculous. I could just... I don't know. I don't know how anyone could ever take a Modron seriously. Even if there is hundreds of thousands of them trying to bring order across the universe. Like some kind of weird fascist regime.
I think if I used them in my campaign, I would turn them and make them terrifying because you guys wouldn't take them seriously. But you really should, because those things will kill you and your family.
On the other hand, the Mara, this thing is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It is a giant metal man with a golden disc on his chest and a big eyeball and little tiny wings on his shoulders and his ankles. And he's covered in spikes, and he has such actions as Eneering Slam, Blazing Edict, and Justify. And he can plane shift at will. And if that is not the coolest shit...
It's pretty f***ing cool.
It's pretty cool. Now, on his own, this is just a really cool CR25 monster with no legendary actions, which is kind of surprising. The interesting part is that whilst he is considered a large construct, he has a new tag that is not ever been seen before. Certainly not in 5th edition anyway, and it's since 5th edition is pretty much where the vast majority of my knowledge is. I have never seen these things before, and it is called an inevitable. So I did some digging, and I found a little bit, and there was actually surprisingly a Wikipedia page on these things, and it lists the 6 existing inevitables, mostly from 3 of which from the Manual of the Planes, and also the 3.5 Monster Manual, and then the Fiend Folio, and it doesn't tell you what this is, but a book called Sandstorm, which I presume is a source book for a particular setting, probably Dark Sun or something like that. The Marat is on here, and it says that they represent the sort of the inevitability of death. So anything that tries to defy death unnaturally, be it liches or someone who sacrifices a bunch of dude to the gods to try and avoid a plague or whatever, that's the example it gives here. It hunts them down and kills them by punching them.
Which is pretty cool.
That is pretty metal, both literally and figuratively.
Oh, that took me a few seconds. Oh, I hate you so much.
So there are several other of these inevitables, be it the Ellicott, which it hunts people who avoid punishment. It is apparently a mechanical centaur with golden wings that uses built-in spiked chains charged with electricity as its primary weapon.
There was a Z at the start of its name. Zellicott.
Shit.
It's called the Zellicott.
Zellicott. There's the Collieret, which hunts Oathbreakers, and they are humanoids made of black metal, just like the Marat, and they are dressed in robes. They're typically armed with swords, and they sort of, I presume they kind of disguise themselves, which is interesting. Like, it's very odd. But they certainly sound very interesting, and I look forward to them being in, like, a future monster book that Wizards will likely end up putting out, or maybe in an adventure or something. We might see one of these things in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, because it's cool. These kind of things are something that one would find there, especially a Marat, especially one of those. In Fiend Folio, there is the Vellicott. It hunts down people who would ascend to godhood. However, there's an interesting clause, though, in that should that person succeed, the Varaka is, I think I said it wrong again.
I said Valaka, but that's fine.
Varaka, it's hard to read, okay?
Fine.
Reading is difficult.
It's okay.
Varaka will defend this new god. So I think that's kind of interesting. Like, so if you look at, like, Vecna or something, Vecna is, Vecna is either already a god in some setting that he is involved in, or he is trying to be one.
Mm-hmm.
So every, Avarika would team up with someone who's trying to kill Vecna, or at the very, very least would not be opposed to them necessarily. These things are a little unpredictable by the sounds of things. They're very driven. They are machines, which I think is kind of interesting. So I can sort of envision, a bunch of Avarika trying to kill Vecna, which sounds pretty cool. And I think these things look the coolest, in that they are a humanoid-shaped creature made out of metallic polygons and fight using disintegration beams.
We don't like the disintegration spell. We've almost lost characters.
Everybody loves disintegrate. And
I like using it. I don't like it being used against me.
I'm just picturing like some kind of like something that just walked off of like an alpha version of an N64 game shooting death beams at you. And I think that's a pretty interesting thing to envision. I kind of like it when D&D goes quite abstract with the monsters, like stuff that is from another plane looks alien. It's not just like, oh, it's a snake, but it's on fire. It's like, this is an abstract thing that is difficult to comprehend as a thing that exists. And I think that's super cool. I feel like aberrations do it quite well. There's quite a lot of aberrations that are like that, like aboleths and beholders. Yeah, but there's a lot of other monsters that's just sort of like, again, like it's a snake, but it's on fire. It's a bird, but it's big. And like, obviously a rock is not a great example because they are native to the material plane, but even so, like, there are some scenarios where it's like, this could be a little more. There's a little more abstract, and I like that. That's what they've done with this thing.
But from the brief descriptions I have, so I'm not too familiar with these things,
Neither
they
am I.
kind of sound like what angels from the Bible are meant to be depicted as. Because from the Bible, angels are meant to be these abstract, terrifying things to behold. That, because I've seen art of them before.
Yes.
And those things look quite similar to how these are depicted in what little art I've seen of them.
Yeah. It's
I think it's quite interesting. I quite like that.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as these things are sort of like hunting down people who try to ascend to godhood and try to avoid death and everything.
Yeah,
I kind of like that link. Even if it's not deliberate, I've just completely made it up. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Like, I feel like I've heard that thing somewhere before where, like, it's like a sort of a... Oh, obviously, interpreting religion is a touchy subject, but obviously there's all the Bible and similar religious texts are very abstract with their meaning, and realistically speaking, you can interpret it however you choose to, and you're objectively not wrong 99% of the time, regardless of how one would interpret.
Yeah.
Like, if that's how one would think angels should be, then
how I've seen art of them drawn. They look similar to how these are drawn. I think it's quite interesting.
Especially since angels in D&D are very sort of traditional, like, angels. Like, they're
humanoid.
They're just dudes and ladies with wings and funny coloured skin. Like, the Solar is orange and the Planetar is green.
Whereas
he looks like Martian Manhunter, actually, which is kind of amusing.
It's pretty funny, actually. Whereas in the Bible, angels they're seen as like these weird abstract shapes with eyes. They do have wings, but they're not humanoid. They're far from it. Which is why they were like, I've got the quote wrong, but all I can think of is, we come in peace. That's the wrong quote. Those are aliens, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. There are two more. There is the Quarret, and they protect the integrity of space and time. So basically, if you cast Wish, there's an entire possibility that one of these is going to try and kill you, which is always very fun. It also references time travel as a thing in D&D, and that makes me very scared, because I don't want anything to do with that. That's just too confusing.
I mean, there is time stop. Does that count?
No, not really. You're not going back or moving forward. Just everything stops around you for a few moments, and you can get time to run away like a little bitch.
Do you think the Feywild thing counts with the Feywild time changes? Would that count?
No, that wouldn't count. That's a natural thing in...
Yeah, but like if someone went to the Feywild to try and escape what is happening on the material plane at the moment and just kind of hung out in the Feywild for a few months or a few years.
I think that the thing with the Feywild is it's very unpredictable. So your attempt to escape to the Feywild
might backfire.
Yeah, you might come back and you've been gone for like
an hour.
Yeah, you go away for a year and you come back and it's only actually been like 3 weeks in the material plane, and you just walk out and then you get arrested immediately. Or you could have been gone for 300 and something years and literally everything you've ever known is gone. So I doubt that covers it, but I suppose that's kind of as a DM, maybe the Feywild is a plane of chaos, like across the board. It's very chaotic. So I think it's very reasonable to say that maybe I think the Modrons just as a whole and the Inevitables among them would probably want or not like the Feywild very much. So it's entirely plausible. And finally, there is the Arnadrit, I believe, and it is by far the least interesting, as it's region locked and is effectively, as it's from the book Sandstorm, which whilst I'm unsure for certain, likely if somebody wants to correct me, you are more than welcome to. Likely has something to do with Dark Sun, and if not, very obviously has something to do with the desert, because these things protect the integrity of the desert. If you try to farm the desert, or mine in the desert, or change the desert in any real way, this thing will do something about it.
Okay.
And that's...
I feel like they would be more interesting if there were more of them. It's like other ones for different regions.
Like, or it was just kind of a general
just
thing.
One
like
thing that protects the wild in general.
Yeah, the natural order of... The natural order of nature, and if any one thing starts to become too prevalent, one of these comes in and just acts like pest control of, be it, I don't know, toads or rabbits or humans. Like...
They're just Thanos. Don't tell me I'm wrong, because you know I'm not.
No, you're not wrong. That's... Oh, God damn it. See,
this is the second time we've compared something to Thanos in this. We had the thing from the New Adventures.
Yeah, Manchun looks like Thanos, and now the Andriot or the Andriot or the Anadrit. I don't know.
Let's call it by its other name, Waste Crawler, which is less cool.
Yeah, it's less cool. Less cool. He's just can't snap my fingers.
You can't snap your fingers loud enough.
I can't do it.
No,
there you go.
It might not have picked up, but
it probably did. Can Thanos those motherfuckers? One word.
Hentai. That's the word I was thinking of.
You ruined this segment.
Sorry.
We're going to keep this in so the viewers can be, or the listeners can be
I'm sorry, but like,
ashamed of you as I am.
I've seen that thing somewhere before, and it was not in somewhere that was child-friendly at all. Don't shame me.
I was going to say Yugoloths.
Oh.
I like Yugoloths. Yugoloths are really cool. They're, in my personal opinion, the coolest design-wise of all the fiends, because the devils across the board are just kind of boring, and the demons, whilst some of them are pretty cool, most of them are just ugly, and that's kind of it.
You're telling me this thing isn't ugly?
I am telling you this thing is very ugly, but the demons are like a next level of ugly, you know?
This is cool.
Yeah.
Where are its eyes?
I don't know. Are they up there? I think that might be a little eye. I'm not sure.
I thought that was his nostril.
I have no idea.
No clue.
For reference, we are currently looking at the Canoloth, one of the new Yugoloths introduced in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, alongside several others. Across the board, Yugoloths in this book, there's a couple of good ones. There's a couple of really shitty ones that I really don't like. This one is kind of cool, the Canoloth. It's got a big, like, barbed tongue that it's going to try and kill you with. It's got claws. It can bite you with a very scary looking mouth, and it's kind of interesting. It's
very interesting. Also, as I said before, very similar to things that I have seen in other media. Don't shame me. Moving on. Canoloths.
Canoloths. Yeah, they're sort of These things are kind of interesting. I kind of like these things. There's not a huge amount to say about them other than the fact that I kind of like them. Next is the Durgaloth.
It's just a bug doing jazz hands.
It is. And he spins like a Beyblade, and that makes me so happy.
He's amazing. I love them.
He's great. He looks like he's mid-yodel. He's spinning his little body around because somehow his body can spin independently of his 3 legs and his head. And with his 5 arms, he is just a whirling Beyblade of death.
He has an arm coming out of his stomach.
He does. But this guy, he might be incredibly stupid, but oh my god, I love him so much. He's so great. I think it's just the art that kind of makes it with his big open mouth, like he is about to start screaming. He's either going to start yodeling, singing opera, or the theme tune to Beyblades. And honestly, I would be okay with any of those because this guy seems pretty great.
Like at the start of combat, you no longer say roll initiative, you say let her rip and let these guys loose. I love them. I love him.
This thing is great, honestly. Like, this is probably my favorite thing from this entire book, strictly because of his stupid face. Just Google Durgaloth, Dhergoloth. Google it, look at the art. His face is amazing. Make sure you're looking at the 5e art, because I'm not sure what the art looks like for any other editions this guy might have been in. Next is the Hydraloth. This guy, he looks like one of the 100 million other frog-like creatures from 5e. Seriously, there's so fucking many of them. Why, I will never understand. But there is entire like classes of separate creatures. There's grungs, bullywugs, froghemoths, slards. There's the Hezro, which is a demon. There's at least 1 or 2 more, and then there's this fucker as well. And whilst I hate the fact that he's just a frog, his abilities are actually super cool. He steals your memories.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Next is actually, I think, my second favourite, and I think easily the coolest. This is the lowest CR Yugoloth I think I've ever seen. This guy's only CR 3, but he comes with lair actions, which I think is super cool. And his entire lair action is about him being like a boat master. This, I forget what the name of the creature from Greek mythology is. I forget his name. I think it begins with either a C or an S or something, but he sails the boat down the River Styx. Mm-hmm. And the River Styx is a thing in D&D, and it's, to my knowledge, what bridges the gap between the lower planes, or at least, at the very, very least, connects the 9 hells and the abyss. And these things, they sail it, and their lair action is all about making sure their boat can do all sorts of different things. I honestly think it's super cool. He can control weather. He can control water. He himself is kind of weak, but on a ship with people to protect him, that ship is not going to sink. And I think that's super cool. Mm-hmm. And he also looks really cool as well. He's a big cloaked guy. He's got his oar, which is flaming on the end like a torch. He's got a hood and a little skull face. I quite like him. He's cool.
His name is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, the Merenoloth. That's cool. I like this thing. I think this is if it weren't for the ridiculousness of the Durgaloth, this guy would totally be my favorite.
Yeah.
If only he was a little higher CR, but you know, if you're a DM who knows anything about sort of adapting creatures and sort of, you know, a little bit about balance, that can very easily be remedied. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Oinoloth, not a fan. Just because it just kind of goes full demon and it's just an ugly for the sake of being ugly.
I kind of like it.
I like it from a design standpoint, just as a concept, as a Yugoloth that is literally a bringer of plagues. Like, I think that's super cool. He can heal someone, but it corrupts them when he does it, which I also think is really interesting. But I think it's just his design. He's just kind of, like a lot of the demons, he's just kind of gross for the sake of being gross.
Yeah, but the thing is, that makes sense, though, because he's a bringer of plagues and pestilence. So this makes sense. His depiction does fit very well.
True. That is true. But I don't know. That's just a personal thing. The Yagnoloth, he is one smug-looking motherfucker. and he is very mismatched, and there is a joke you can make there.
Yep.
He has one very large arm and one very small arm. It's a
wonder
joke.
what he uses the stronger arm for.
See, you're supposed to allude
Lifting things, obviously.
Yeah.
Get your mind out of the gutter, Jack.
The whole point is you're supposed to allude to the joke and not actively.
But I'm not good at that.
We've kind of already done it, but it's fine. This guy does... His little arm is electrified, and his, quote, massive arm, which is what it's called on the stat block, punches you for a bunch of damage, and he can stun you just by punching you, which I think is kind of cool. He's also a large creature, so that is a big hand. He's got like one gorilla arm and then like one normal person arm.
Mm.
You can also leech your life, and he has a battlefield cunning feature, which I think is kind of cool. Like, I like this guy. I feel like his mismatchedness makes taking him seriously kind of difficult, but otherwise I think he's really cool.
I think he's quite scary.
He is kind of scary as well, yeah. And those are all the Yugoloths from Volo's Guide, Mordenkainen's across the whole.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, they're cool. I like them, and I'm glad there's more of them, because there was so few. There was only 4, I think. There was the Ultraloth, the Arcanoloth, the Mesoloth, and the Nikoloth from the Monster Manual, and only a couple of those guys are actually like particularly interesting.
Yeah.
The others were just kind of meh. But I'm glad there's more Yugoloths. I really love Yugoloths, both as a concept, and like a lot of the designs are super interesting. Yeah. Especially the Durgaloth. He's pretty great.
I do want him in one of my campaigns.
He is super great. I really love him. So, I think across the board, I really like Mordenkainen's, and we've talked about some of the sort of like some interesting things and like some of my favorite things in the book. But I think something of note that has cropped up that I have noticed throughout this book, especially, I feel like there's been a lot of art cheapskating going on.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that there are several monsters in this book that really should have art, but don't.
Which is always disappointing, because I love art. I love looking at it. I need that visual reference for most of the time, because I can't draw up an image in my head. And for some of the cooler monsters, I really want art.
Yeah. And there are a lot of monsters in this. There are, even just off the top of my head, there's an entire group of monsters, the Starspawn, in which only one of them has any art, whereas all of them have very intricate and interesting designs that's only described. And there is, I believe it's a devil that is one of, if not the most powerful devil of all of them, and it has no art. There's none of it. You have to actively Google this thing to find art of it, and even then, there's not very much of it. And the Starspawn, only the Starspawn, I think Worm Mage, Carrion Mage, something like that. Let me just look it up real quick and just scroll up a little bit.
So I understand why they don't have art for every single monster in here, because that doesn't make sense. That wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
That would just take up
Lava Mage.
It's the Lava Mage that has art.
Yeah. Even then, the vast majority of the monsters have art. A huge portion of them do. Whereas you look at the Starspawn, these hugely intricately designed, like the Starspawn grew as a whole paragraph mostly on just what it looks like, and there's no visual representation. Same can be said for the Starspawn Hulk, the Starspawn Mangler, and the Seer. They just don't have any art at all, with the exception of the Lava Mage, which I will attest to is super cool.
It's kind of horrifying.
Yeah, it's kind of, after that point, it almost feel like there's a little bit of art cheapskating going on in here. Like, whilst across the board, the art that's here is really, really good. It still feels like after, so many monster books, this is the third one they've done. And the art in all the others has been super good, and across the board, there's been quite a lot of it.
Yeah.
But in this case, nope. Let me try and find this devil real quick.
Yeah, because like I was saying, like I really struggle to draw an image of things in my head just off of descriptions. I can't do things without maps. I can't do things without like city art is very helpful for me because otherwise the image I've got in my head is completely wrong and kind of shit. And with monsters, if I go off of the description of a monster, what I think up in my head is not going to be as good or as terrifying as what they are meant to be depicted as. It's not something I can help, really. I just have a mild lack of imagination. It's like when I've been flicking through the monster manual in preparation for my campaign, I just kind of skip over the ones that don't have art. I know I shouldn't do, but unless I have the art, I can't see or imagine what it looks like and what it is like in general, like what it's like, how powerful it is and everything. I can't do that without the art. So having a lack of art for some of the more powerful creatures in here is kind of a hindrance to me. I'm not sure if it is for anyone else in this sense, but
I just think it's super lazy, really. Like that they couldn't. Here it is. It's a demon and not a devil. It's the Meledius or the Molidus or however you're supposed to pronounce it. This is a CR 21 demon with legendary actions. No lair, but legendary actions all the same. Nothing. And then you scroll down one page, you find a CR 15 demon. He's got art. Scroll up. CR 7, he's got art. CR 4, this guy's got art. And his what he looks like is entirely subjective as well. All these other creatures have art. And this massive CR 21 demon, he doesn't get shit. He doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
I've checked to see if there was a page missing in the PDF copy of Mordenkainen's that I have. Nothing. There's no art. It's
kind of disappointing.
It's kind of shitty. But I think there's the fact that there is a CR 21 demon that has no art and innumerable, exceedingly visually interesting creatures that have never been in another book before that have literally no art. I think that's kind of BS. I'm not gonna lie, like very disappointing. Because the Starspawn seems super interesting and I'm now put off from using them because I've got no visual representation outside of part of a paragraph to read about what these things look like. Which I think is really... Because the way I like to do things is I like to describe what a creature looks like and then I give the players art if they are like struggling
like
to...
me.
Yeah, basically. If they are struggling to either picture it or they have specific questions that I can't really answer without just describing the picture in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically speaking, in places it is just a lot easier to just say, this is what it looks like. You open up the book, you cover the stats, you turn it around, you show the players. Or if you're on, if you're talking over Roll20 or Discord or whatever, and you just put the image in the chat.
Yeah.
Say, I've described to you loosely what it looks like. Here is an actual picture of it.
Yeah.
Just with these alterations or whatever. Like, I think that's kind of shitty. I very, very disappointing. Another very interesting thing in Mordenkainen's, on a sort of a more positive note, is the inclusion of a very particular creature designed by a visitor to Wizards of the Coast's headquarters in Seattle. One Nolan Whale, as part of sort of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, actually designed a monster, and it is in the book, and it is probably one of the coolest monsters I have ever seen.
It is one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen art.
It is amazing. Like this kid, like I'm unsure as to how old he may be, or this, that, and the other, but like. This child has created a nightmarish monstrosity for us, or for me as a DM to inflict onto my players in future. And
Thanks.
Believe me, I will. Thank you, Nolan. Thank you very much.
It's so cool.
Thank you very much. You have granted us DMs across the world a great gift in the form of the Oblex. Across the board, oozes are super cool, but it kind of sucks that the vast majority of them are super low CR.
Mm-hmm.
Even the highest CR ones are only like 5 or 6, and that's like once you reach a certain level, you kind of have to wait to fight Jubilex, who is the demon prince of ooze. It's kind of a big gap from going to fighting gelatinous cubes and slithering trackers to fighting the demon prince of goop.
Yeah.
And you kind of need a middle ground, and I like these things. And the Oblex itself is terrifying. They start out very small, and they actually split off from their sort of elders. Like the elders and the adults, they kind of split off and they turn into an Oblex spawn. And these things are kind of pathetic. Like, there's not much to say about these things. All the interesting stuff the Oblex does, these things don't do. They're just kind of there to sort of give context as to how these things grow.
Yeah.
But they are quite interesting. They also do psychic damage as well, which I think is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get to an adult Oblex is where stuff starts to get interesting. These things steal memories. They steal memories and they create ooze-like clones of people that are realistic to the touch.
Horrifying. The entire concept is terrifying.
These things are giant globulous masses that look like they're covered in terrified faces of men and women and also other just bubbles of goop. And they create perfect clones of people. The art here, the art of the adult Oblex is in black and white. And it shows a woman walking away from an adult Oblex. There's actually a little arm coming out. Jesus, fuck. That's terrifying. And she just looks like a regular lady, aside from the blank, emotionless expression on her face. She is, however, joined by a trail of slime to the Oblex, which actually comes as like a thing they have to have. They have to be connected. So once you've deployed these things once or twice to a player, and they learn that this is how it works, they're always going to be checking behind people to see if there's that trail. I know exactly how I would deploy these so that the players have to check in that they have to be connected somehow. This woman here is wearing a big dress. It could be connected to her shoes. This is a floor-length dress, unless the players want to do something very socially unacceptable in lifting up this poor woman, air quotes, dressed to discover she's actually just an Oblex clone and the real lady has been consumed somewhere and is probably a face as a part of the Oblex. You know, it's going to make their lives difficult. Or creaky floorboards with gaps. They can just walk, and the Oblex doesn't even have to be in the next room. It can be in the basement. It could be in the attic.
The entire concept is just terrifying. Honestly,
this is a super cool monster. You go down to the Elder Oblex isn't much different. It is just bigger and badder. It can create more clones at once. It can do all sorts of this crazy stuff. And the art here is even scarier because it's glowing red, and it's this woman that's coming out of it is backlit.
It's horrifying.
It's
so cool.
It's awesome. And as I mentioned, the Oblex spawn before, as this is mentioned in the video with Jeremy Crawford and Todd Kenrick, where he interviews him about the Oblex. I would suggest you go and subscribe to D&D Beyond, because Todd Kenrick, his interviews with the employees of Wizards of the Coast, like Chris Perkins, Todd Kenrick, Mike Merles, Kate Welch, and as of recently, on and off, the cast of Critical Role as well. They've done very recently just done an interview with Sam Riegel about the D&D Beyond animated short, which I think is
the best thing we've seen in a while.
Yeah, it's pretty great. If you haven't seen that, you should go watch it.
I had it stuck in my head for about 3 days straight.
The invisible wand is something I want to deploy at some point, and if you don't know what that is, I suggest you go watch it. Strictly just because it's an invisible wand. And a little while ago, they did interviews with Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey about their new characters as well on the show. But regardless, it was mentioned in this interview that the Oblex reproduces when one of these memories just kind of dislodges from the Oblex. So there's an Oblex spawn. Done. That's it. They just fall off and just scurry away or squelch away or whatever sound they make. They just wriggle away or whatever. And then there's a new Oblex that's going to grow and wreak havoc somewhere else.
It's just terrifying.
I love them. I love them.
I love them, but they're terrifying.
Nolan Whale has earned the charisma check seal of approval for monster design, because holy shit.
This is honestly one of the more interesting things we've seen in a while.
This is easily one of the coolest monsters in this entire book. And it's
yeah.
not even designed by somebody at Wizards of the Coast. It's great. I love it. Like this kid, I hope making this thing and getting it put in this book was as good for him as it was for everybody who is now going to use this monster to terrify their players. Like, good job, man. Like, holy shit.